let's try to move into this visual metaphor. Who knows, maybe I like got this from somewhere. I probably did, or it's probably some combination of things that I've read or heard about somewhere, but this is something that I think of as an explanation of the human experience. It's a simplified way of looking at the human experience, how we develop as humans, and then the stuff that gets in the way of maybe simply being alive. Okay. So here is, and I've drawn each one out in this really simple thing. Please don't judge my drawing here, or you can feel free to judge it if you want to. So here's this first drawing of what I see as human experience. This is just how I see it in my mind, sort of this undifferentiated, maybe you in the womb that's connected to another human. So there is this like intrinsic, inherent connection with another human there. And then maybe even before that, this more mysterious connection. So you have some sort of you, but you're also very intrinsically connected with the womb, with this human, and then this other stuff, like you're really kind of flowing with it and you're a part of it. And then at birth, in the very beginning of our lives, we become seemingly separated. So this is what this one represents, this glasses, pair of glasses on top of that originally sort of undifferentiated experience. We're thrown into the world at birth at full speed. And from the very moment we arise, it's kind of like we're given this pair of glasses. And you can think maybe starting with a name, a label. So to use myself as an example, I was given the label, quote unquote, Charles. And through lots of different things, the color of my skin, the location where I was born, and a whole variety of other factors, I inherited a particular pair of glasses that weren't of my choosing, they just happened. And so I was sort of thrown into the world already having so much of my identity chosen for me, and then sort of implicitly asked to identify with these pair of glasses as if they were me, as if the Charles glasses were like the core, most basic me. And so this was the beginning of my development of a me that is separate from everyone else and is separate from the world around me, sort of encapsulated in this skin thing. And so then what can happen is the lenses become harder to see through over time. So for example, I think this is a big part of the lenses. We learn language, and where there was first just experience, there become things. Parts of our living experience turn into nouns. This is that thing, and that is this thing. I am me, and you are you. We have all of these labels that we use to describe things and to communicate them with each other. And then what can happen is they become those things. And while words and language are incredibly useful tools for communication and collaboration, we wouldn't be able to have this meeting if not for words, maybe. So while they can be great tools, I think they can also really block us from any sort of direct experience with life. They become a big sort of like blurring part of these glasses. And we begin to take the words, these symbolic tools, for the whole reality. So a common example is like a tree. And so when you hear the word tree, you might have a vision of what that is. But if you look at a tree, it's not encapsulated in this word. It's not encapsulated in TREE or in the sound I make when I say tree. It's this living experience that can't actually be encapsulated in words. I can use it to communicate to you, and you might have some idea of what the tree is maybe like. But to be limited by that word, by that symbolic tool, is to totally limit my actual felt alive experience of this thing in front of me. And we use that for everything we experience, including ourselves. And so this is kind of like, there's a way I've heard it described as like mistaking a map for the actual territory that it represents. Like, so you could imagine walking through some like beautiful natural landscape and only looking at the GPS map of it on your phone. The map helps you to get there, but then the point is to just be there and experience it. But the thicker these glasses become, you can just see this as like stuff building on top of the glasses. The thicker they become, the harder it is to just experience, to just be alive, to do something that was so natural in the beginning as a pure child. All this stuff just keeps getting added on top. And so in this whole process, what I originally was then turns into the noun Charles. So I turn into my pair of glasses, the story about who I am, like the GPS map. I turn into just that map on my phone, as opposed to the whole full me that can't be encapsulated in the word Charles. I can so easily become just that, this very limited version of my existence. And so I think with that, it might be an interesting time to shift into a breakout room based on those concepts.
Anyone wants to share anything that they talked about in their group, feel free. Charles, you could share something that your group talked about.
Sure. Well, it feels like it kind of relates into the next part that I'll keep talking about. Um, it's hard to summarize it in the moment, but I think it provides a nice transition into this next piece, because we were talking somewhat about like expectations of others, how that contributes to weight on the glasses, as well as expectations from yourself on yourself, and how that contributes to weight on the glasses, and like really questioning where these things even really come from, like if they are real, or if I do need to be living my life based on these different things. So I think expectations was a real topic that came up for the weight that can build on top of the glasses. And so I think the next piece of the visual can maybe add on to that a little bit more too. Any thoughts from you, Ebenezer, or any other things to check in on before we go any further?
Yeah, I just I had one question about labels. At this point, like the analogy kind of assumes that labels are in a sense a bad thing. Um, but I'm curious as to like I don't know whether that's like the case. Like is that would you say that labels are always a bad thing or
It's interesting because I could
oh,
see
oh,
that like totally being implied sort of via the analogy. So I'm really glad that you bring that up too, because I don't think that they're necessarily bad, or bad at all. I think the thing that I'm attempting to point to here is the importance of just looking at what is on the glasses. Is this thing a piece of weight that actually doesn't feel central to you, or is this thing a piece that feels like essential to your pair of glasses and it's meaningful and important to you? And that's kind of the practice that I think of. I think we all have glasses, quote unquote glasses, just as being a human. You come out and you are this thing, and maybe there is something else that's beneath all of that, that is something different, but that's not to say that one is better than the other. But that like you can maybe be really aware of what your glasses are like, and live in a way that feels true to you based on your pair of glasses, and also at times connect with something that maybe is beneath it, and is beyond the glasses in a way. So it's a great point. I wonder if that answers your question or what you think about that.
yeah, I think that like addresses the question um a little bit, you know, just like another thought pops up is to like how one actually goes and does that sort of like reflection or figures out, okay, is this central to me or isn't it? But that's like a whole different tangent that we could go into, but probably later on, because I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about where we go from here now that we know that
Sure,
everyone has glasses.
sure. And that it's probably beyond the scope of this. My hope is that this could be just like another way to help you conceptualize things in your mind and help you figure out how to look into this stuff on your own, because I think that's ultimately an answer that only you can find or know how to find or know where to look for it. I can certainly recommend some things that can help in that direction. But my hope is that this is something that can just be something on your mind that you could remember and help you maybe slow down long enough to, in whatever way you do or whatever way feels right for you, just spend the time to really look at your pair of glasses or the stuff that's on your glasses. I mean, so there are ways potentially to do that, but I don't think any right way. And I think that you probably know the way, if you can slow down for long enough to to see it or reflect on it. Or so I will touch on that. So we're back to this visual, and so this is one addition to the glasses metaphor. That's become pretty vivid for me over time, especially in my individual work, in what I call individual guidance, but you could call it therapy. It's just a little bit different, I guess. And so here's one addition to the glasses metaphor that relates particularly to the work that I do, and I often use with clients to help conceptualize what's going on in their life. And this one has it's like it's an addition to the glasses, but maybe has a bit more of a focus on what can be like difficult and painful experiences in life, that add layers on top of that basic pair of glasses that you are just kind of born into. And so my guess is that we all experience pain in life, but in different ways and in very differing degrees. So here's an addition to the glasses based on that experience of pain that we might feel growing up in life. The pair of glasses can turn into what I call a spacesuit. And so you can think of this as like, it's like a way of seeing the world to help you survive, to help you be able to breathe in your environment. And it might be due to like stressors in your family, or it could be things like bullying experiences, or it could be larger like societal burdens that are placed on you, or experiences of oppression, or it could be a lot of different things depending on your particular experience in life, or really anything that might make you feel like there's something wrong with the pure, basic, raw you. And so in response to that, I believe you develop what could be thought of as a spacesuit on top of your basic glasses that helps you to be able to breathe. And you likely don't know that you're doing it. You're just adapting, like in whatever way you can. You're sort of piecing together this suit with whatever is available to you. And then as you get older, since you weren't aware that you were creating the suit in the first place, it stays on you. And on some deep level, you still feel like you need it in order to be able to breathe. Maybe intellectually, you're like, I don't need that, whatever that might be. But maybe on some deep, more primal level, there's a deep feeling like you do need it in order to be able to survive. And that anything that might break through or be near breaking through might feel really scary. But then what can happen is that the suit can start to feel really heavy. And it can actually make it start to be hard to connect with other people and with the world around you. And maybe starts to actually make it hard to breathe. And you might increasingly feel like it's not truly you, or this spacesuit version is not really representative of like the deepest you. And maybe because that pure self from back in the beginning has been buried like way deep beneath the surface of this spacesuit to protect it. And so to maybe make it a little bit more tangible, you have a kind of a review of each of the steps here, that like basic you in the beginning that was maybe in the womb or maybe even before the womb, connected. And then there's the development of the basic glasses, and then more stuff on top of the glasses, and then potentially into this fully fleshed protective space suit. And so the suit might be like made up of stories, for example, or beliefs about yourself, about the world, about others, based on your experiences and based on the ways that you've adapted to life. And so some examples could be things like, I'm weak, so I need to appear strong, just on a very broad level. Or like, I'm ugly, so I need to change my appearance to appear attractive. I'm not worthy of love, so I need to leave other people before they have the chance to leave me and expose that truth. Or like, I'm awkward or weird, so I should be quiet. That's one that's familiar to me. Or it could be like beliefs about other people, like all people who look like this are this way. Or when someone says this thing, they really mean this thing. So all of these beliefs may be based on like early and repeated experiences in life, and they provide us with some sense of control and protection, but then they keep that deeper you from really living right now in this moment, the moment that has never happened before like this, and that will never happen again. The spacesuit sort of keeps you in a world that remembers yesterday and predicts tomorrow, but really misses out on right now. And so you might just take a moment to like reflect on your own spacesuit, um, or just noticing like what it maybe feels like to you, uh, or maybe looks like in your mind when I talk about this notion of first the glasses and then this like spacesuit that has developed on top of who you are. And I had like a sort of longer experiential practice, but it's just noticing time. I'm not going to do that, but maybe take a moment here. And if you're willing, you could close your eyes here if you're willing to do that, just to move a little bit more into sort of visualization about it. But if not, that's fine too. And just start to become aware maybe of like, first of all, what the glasses feel like, going all the way back to you as a baby. You're just born and you have this sort of pair of glasses that's adorned on you. And you can think of your name and maybe your association with your name. It's like most basic version of you. And then you might imagine your experiences growing up in life. And you can feel this like spacesuit sort of developing on top of you that helps you to adapt in whatever way you can or whatever way you could. And of course, you didn't know like what to do or why things are happening, but you just adapted in whatever way you could, and that created this spacesuit version of you. And you can just imagine like what the spacesuit looks like or what it feels like on you right now. Does it feel big? Does it feel like tight? Does it fit well? What's it made of? Is it like machine? Is it just pieced together? And now maybe feel what it might be like, not that you need to do this, but what it might be like to, for a moment, step outside of the spacesuit. You can just imagine what that might feel like, to sort of maybe unzip the thing and to step outside in what maybe feels like a safe space for you. And you can maybe zip yourself back up inside if you want to. And you can, if your eyes were closed, you can open them back up. And you can move around if you want to, or whatever might feel good. And I would be interested to know what came up for you here. And I realized too, there's there's probably a lot here that could be explored. And I notice like I have like so much to explore here. Also maybe things that could be helpful to make this more practical for you, because there is like kind of a next piece of it, which is the practice of self-awareness, um, like what Ebenezer was saying earlier, which it can be things like a meditation practice or journaling practice or all these things that I know you all are kind of aware of. But my hope is that having this kind of framework can help motivate you to do that sort of practice and start to become aware of what the pieces of your suit are like. And I think the spacesuit is something that you can really honor. Like going back to Ebenezer's point, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's actually this thing that's been really helpful for you. And you can start to become just more clearly aware of it and decide, are there pieces of it that maybe you don't need? Or are there people that you can be with without the spacesuit on completely? Or are there contexts and situations where you feel like I do totally need this spacesuit and I'm going to use it? And that's okay too. But I guess self-awareness to me is just being really clearly aware of the suit that you're wearing and deciding in this moment, do I want to be acting like based on the stuff that makes up the suit or not? So I'm just looking at a few of your responses here. Feeling free and light when taking the spacesuit off. Was kind of annoyed with my spacesuit and just wanted it to be off. Maybe not being able to. I know there are pieces of mine that I feel annoyed with. I think I've shifted into more of a relationship of like playfulness with those pieces and like compassion and understanding, even if there's a part of me that's frustrated with them. The part of me that still gets like pretty anxious socially when there's like no real reason for it, but on some level there is a deep reason for that part of me that maybe is afraid of being rejected or made fun of or whatever it might be. So I can like accept that part of me at the same time. It's really feeling a vulnerable feeling to step out of the spacesuit. Like the framing of the suit was able to judge it less than the baggage or weight that I had felt before. Your mind wandered, Daisy, to individuals who I felt like could remove my spacesuit, and to those who I felt like the need to put it back on. Like maybe different people where you feel safe enough to be able to do that. It also makes me think of maybe the value of being that for other people in your life, in whatever way that you can, any opportunity you can to potentially help someone. And you might not be able to force that, but just to remember this notion. And when you're with anybody, the possibility of being someone that might make it feel a little bit safer to not have to have all those layers of protection on, can really be an amazing thing, and it can allow you to connect. And it might just be by you taking the risk to take yours off, which might make them feel safe enough to take theirs off with you. Feeling an immense sense of liberation when shedding the spacesuit while simultaneously holding gratitude for the suit and the ways it's served you. I kind of like the idea maybe too of like framing the spacesuit and having it up on the wall, and maybe knowing that at any point, if you felt like you needed it, you could go and grab it and put it on, or maybe develop this new one that sort of fits you now. I feel like even when I find someone that I could be without it on, I still watch their reactions very carefully and adjust based on how they receive it. And maybe that can be okay too, or you can just notice that. And with these practices like a journaling practice or working with someone individually to explore where that comes from, it can help you see those things more and more clearly in the moment. And maybe thought they can have increasingly less control over you in those moments. Interesting question, James. Do you ever completely leave the suit, or is it just replaced with another new one? That kind of just takes me to this last slide. And Zafir, not sure how to take it off. I think maybe those are inherently, it's making me think more of like spirituality now, going into maybe the realm of Zen, where you get into this realm where there isn't really a logical answer to this, but you just have to sit with it and experience it. And this thing here is, this last visual is like, maybe through a practice of self-awareness, you can become more and more clearly aware of your glasses, and they become more clear. And then maybe you have moments at a time of stepping like outside of them or feeling into something that is beyond it. But I don't know that you can, maybe you can, I don't know that you can ever like really stay there and still be a person in the world at the same time. But to step out of it for moments, I call them holy shitness. Excuse me if if I offended you by cursing, this kind of happened. But that's the term that I have in my mind for that feeling, which is just this like shock of, wow, I might look at a tree and I totally lose that label for the tree. And just like, what is this experience? I can't put it into words, but I'm feeling, and maybe in that moment I'm a part of that stuff that is behind the glasses. But inevitably I come back in and I start to think about it. And as soon as I think, wow, that was a cool experience, I'm like back in the realm of my glasses. But that's okay. So maybe there can just be this increased balance between those two, and more of a harmony between them versus a experience of conflict. Yeah, where do you know where the tree ends and the earth starts? It sounds like a Zen koan. Yeah, the spacesuit can be a burden, but can also be used as protection. And I totally agree. Yeah, so I think that sort of takes us to the end of this experience. This is really fun for me. I also noticed that it's the most fun for me when I get like out of presenting mode and just move into experience here with you, which makes me think of the podcast that I've been doing, and it's called What Is Now, and the point of it is to just have no plan, and then you sit in silence for a minute and then just experience whatever happens with another person. And Ebenezer was actually on a recent episode of that, which was really awesome. And we went for like an hour and a half, which is more than we've gone with anyone before. So that was very fun. But I'm just noticing the joy of kind of being here with you all and hearing your reactions to this stuff in the moment. It's a really fulfilling experience for me. And I hope that it's been valuable for you. And I hope just having a visual like this, even if it doesn't make maybe like logical sense or you don't know where to go with it, my hope is that it can just pop up for you, or it's maybe a seed that is planted, and then in a moment it could help you have a different sort of grasp on something that plays out in your life like over and over again. And you can see it as like, it's that kind of part of the spacesuit or the glasses, and I can kind of trace back where that came from. And does it really need to be there? Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. It can just maybe help in this continual practice of maybe getting closer and closer to a version of the spacesuit and the glasses that feel like they really represent who you are, and allow you on some level to just be yourself, the one that was underneath it the whole time and that was always good enough and awesome, just the way that you've been the whole time. So that's my message for you, and thank you so much for joining me here.